Hi, my name is Jan Potgieter. I'm the founder and CEO of Jan Potgieter & Associates, where we equip the new generation of business negotiators with the elite level negotiation skills that they need to restore honor and integrity to the marketplace. Now, a little while ago, I was watching a documentary about the life of Mike Tyson, the famous heavyweight boxing champion. And he said something very interesting, which was that he'd won almost every single of the fights that he'd won before he even set foot in the ring. And what he was referring to was the strength of his mind game and the thoroughness of his preparation, right? And the same thing is true when you think about negotiation. The results of your negotiation are so dependent on your mindset and the thoroughness, the diligence that you've invested in your preparation before you get to the negotiation table. And this is true also when you consider the objectives that you set for your negotiation. Now, I'm going to give you three things that you need to pay particular attention to as you get ready for negotiations, as you set yourself goals for the negotiation, to ensure that you don't leave unexploited value on the table and that you minimize the risk of getting no deal. Before I give you the first one, I want to use as the backdrop the principle of reciprocity. And if you've watched any of my videos or you've ever interacted with me, you will have heard me talk about the basic principle that underpins human behavior, or that underpins social behavior between humans, which is the principle of reciprocity, which states that we return to others the form of behavior that they exhibit towards us. So in other words, if I'm nice to you, probably you're going to be nice to me. If I treat you rudely and impolitely, you're probably going to return the favor. In the context of negotiation, if I'm prepared to make concessions to you, probably you're going to be prepared to make concessions to me. Very strong principle. The principle of reciprocation. Now, what are the 3 points? So the first point is you must not negotiate with yourself. Now, one of the key mistakes I see people make all the time, particularly on the sell side in the context of negotiations, business negotiations, is that people negotiate with themselves. As they prepare their proposal or their bid, what they're doing is they're having a conversation with themselves. They're saying, this is our normal list price. But this is a very competitive situation, or these guys are very demanding, the professional buyers that we're seeing. So what we need to do is we need to moderate our expectations. Maybe we must go in at a discount to our list price. And then they go in at that discounted list price. But the key thing that's missing here is that your counterpart has no knowledge of the fact that you actually have made a concession against your original list price, because you've not indicated that in your bid. And now when the negotiation starts and they demand a concession, you can often find yourself stuck, because now you don't have much room to move, because you've effectively made the discount, or you've given up the concession that you had to give, even effectively before the negotiation started. And that makes it really difficult for you to negotiate. So don't make that mistake. You have to be very explicit about the concession that you're making. How do you do that? You need to provide a reference point. So you need to create contrast. You need to say, this is the list price, but in this case, we're opening our offer at this level. And you could perhaps associate that with something that you expect, or the terms and conditions that would warrant you to provide that discount. Now, the interesting thing, and this is the second point I wish to make, which is quite counter to the conventional wisdom. You go through most negotiation training, what they're going to tell you to do is they're going to say you should not make the first concession. You should let them make the first concession, and when they make a concession, then you will make a concession in return. So they'll premise this whole thing on the word if. If you do this, then I'll do this. But think about the reciprocity that ensues as a result of positioning that way. If you do this, then I'll do that. The reciprocity that's going to provoke is they're going to turn it right back to you and say, no, if you do that, then we'll do this. So the whole key to this principle of reciprocity is that you should act first. You should go ahead and offer the first concession, and you might suggest what you want in return, but you can say, look, I'm prepared to do this. In exchange, I would really appreciate it if you would consider doing that. That would make it possible for us to offer this concession. But by all means, go ahead and make the first concession. You should set the tone for the kind of negotiation that you wish to ensue. So in other words, if you want your counterparts to make concessions to you, then of course you will have to be prepared to make concessions. All right? So it's not going to happen unless you're prepared to make concessions, because of this principle of reciprocity. And the third point that I wish for you to consider as you set your objectives is that you should have heightened ambition. You should be demanding in terms of the objectives that you set for yourself. Now, please note, I'm not saying you should be extreme in your demands, But we know if we look at the key success criteria that underpins elite level performance in negotiation, one of those key characteristics is heightened ambition. You know, you simply can't get great deals or good deals if you're not demanding. If you don't ask, then you're not going to get. So resist this temptation to negotiate with yourself. Be explicit about your demands and ask for more than you expect to receive, because of course this will enable you to be able to make more concessions. So strangely enough, and a lot of people don't get this, you know, the exchanging of concessions is what creates deal satisfaction ultimately. That's what builds commitment to the transaction. Often, and this is the case when I deal with smart people working for some of the top corporations in the world, is they have this notion that, you know, a deal's going to happen anyway, and so let's just take the shortcut to the end. But of course, without the hygiene factors, without the relational things that really underpin human nature, no satisfaction is created. You know, you don't want to grab the first offer because there's no satisfaction in grabbing the first offer from both parties' perspective, because it can lead to buyer's remorse or to seller's remorse. So consider those three things, and I hope that helps you to get better results from your upcoming negotiations. So to your success.